Hey gang, I'm ready to go about a minute early and waiting for some people to show up. We'll see what's going on. I know there's some out there waiting, but this this live stream, I wanted to talk about doing or making road trips. You know, there's all kinds of reasons that we take road trips or go on road trips, and I had to make a few over the past couple weeks. So just kind of waiting to see if this is working, get some people on board. I don't see anybody showing up yet. So there we go. Robert Adams. Hey, good to have you here. You know, this technology is great, but it's hard to say or hard to know if, hey, Andrew, thanks. It's hard to know if, okay, cool, Robert. It's hard to know if things are working properly, because basically, I'm sitting here in front of a little webcam and the only sounds around me are the fan from the computer, airplanes flying over, and I'm waiting for messages to pop up in the little chat box. Otherwise, I don't really know. But I'm glad to hear everybody's showing up and that the audio is working. Um, anyway, I thought I'd talk about some road trips, and this comes to mind because I made a couple different road trips over the past couple weeks, and I got thinking about some trips that I've made and why I've made them and where I've gone. And sometimes, hey Jack, sometimes we make trips. Well, we make road trips for different reasons. Maybe to go get a car, maybe to go visit family, and I just had some kind of memories pop up in my head because um, probably the first road trip I made by myself, and I say by myself, but probably the first road trip I made, for any great distance was traveling from Pennsylvania to Fort Benning whenever I was in the military. And, that's 750, 800 miles, something like that. And I made that road trip, of course, to return to the military base. And over the course of those years that I was in the military, which was 3 years, every 6 months or something, I would make that road trip back to Pennsylvania and then back to Georgia and, so on and so forth. And I was thinking about a road trip that I made in, what was it, 80, probably 89, I think. I'd gotten out of the military and came home, and my uncle was down in Fort Polk, I believe, Louisiana. And for whatever reason, we decided my grandfather wanted to go visit him. And so, hey, Trevor, appreciate it. So anyway, my uncle and I got in, or my grandfather and I got into it was like I don't know, 1980 or 81, something like that, Volkswagen Rabbit diesel. And we took off and drove all the way down to Louisiana. And the thing is, my grandfather, he wouldn't let me drive the whole way. And I guess it was just him, and he wanted to be in charge. So we drove, and it's like 1,000 miles from Pennsylvania to Louisiana, and we drove that great distance. And I could see him getting tired and woozy and different things. And at one point, we had stopped to get something to eat. He would stop and stretch his legs occasionally, and we were getting back on the interstate somewhere in Louisiana, and he he was driving his Volkswagen Rabbit and entering the highway, and he didn't see this semi truck, and I kind of saw the truck and was looking, and he didn't see it, and he came right over and hit that semi truck. Basically, we were kind of, almost ready to go in front of that truck by the time he noticed, and he hit that truck, and it took the mirror and bent the mirror around on the car, and he bounced off of that truck and straightened it out and kept going. And he took it like it was just an everyday thing. I'm over on the passenger side freaking out. He just rolls down the window and straightens out the mirror, puts it back up, and keeps on driving. So we ended up making the trip to Louisiana and saw my uncle, and uh, spent some time there with a buddy of mine, and then I drove back from Louisiana. I went from um, Louisiana across to back over to Georgia, Fort Benning. I was trying to see if I could connect with any of my old military buddies, and then drove back to Pennsylvania. So I made the trip even longer by myself. But my grandfather actually drove back to Kentucky with my uncle. So I was on my own for the rest of that trip. But I was just thinking about that because, sometimes like I said, you take a trip for various reasons. Um, I took a trip once I bought a 96, like the Chevy Tahoe, but it was the two-door model. And I think it was a GMC. And it was being sold in Chicago. And I bought it online. I flew to Chicago, bought the vehicle, and then drove it back to Georgia all in the same day. But sometimes you just make these trips. And I had no problems. Drove that thing home, had it for a while, and then I sold it. My neighbor actually wanted it. He bought it from me. And then I had a similar trip where I bought a Fiero because my wife liked Fieros, and she had one. And she found a Fiero GT that she liked. It was up in Ohio, and that one was kind of crazy because I flew to Ohio, and the car was not in running condition. And so I fly to Ohio, and I had to put brakes on the car. I had to fix the thermostat. There's something else I think I had to do. And so I fly up there, and I fixed these things wrong with this car, and then I drove it back to Georgia all on the same day. Oh, I had to put a battery in it too. That was the other thing. The guy thought I was crazy. And somewhere in Tennessee, I think it was, I got pulled over because they had put bigger tires on this Fiero, and it was a GT model, 88 model. And I was driving it home and flying, and I didn't realize how far off the speedometer was. Thought I was doing like 75 or 80, and I was closer to like 95. And a police officer pulled me over, and he was smart enough to look at the tires and check the actual sticker on the inside of the door. And he's the one that commented, these tires are like 4 sizes bigger than what's supposed to be on this car. So I did not get a ticket, and he sent me on my way, but he said, slow down. So I did. Anyway, just kind of things that I was thinking about. And part of this also has to deal with, again, why you make these road trips. And I made a road trip 2 weeks ago to visit an uncle who is, to be honest, he's dying. I mean, he's very close to dying. But I'd gotten a call from my mom, and she was telling me how his health has really dropped off. And anyway, so I got in the car the next morning, and I drove up to Kentucky and had a visit with my uncle, which was really good. Good in the sense that I was able to have some conversation with him, tell him some things that I wanted to tell him, and spend a day and a half with him basically, and then drove back to Georgia. But sometimes you make those trips because it's important, and you make it happen. So that's what I did, and I'm very happy that I got to see him. I know he's going to pass away soon, but very important, person in my life. Let's just put it that way. Very important to me. So anyway, I don't want to get all emotional on you guys. That's not what this is about. I'm just trying to have a conversation out here with the point of making these trips. Hey, Carla, glad you're here. DP, I grew up in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. If you're familiar with that, it's about halfway between Pittsburgh and Harrisburg. So if you're familiar. Johnstown area would be probably the biggest city in that area. So if you're familiar with that, that's where I'm from. Thank you, Trevor. Yep, it was very important to me. He's because sometimes and sometimes you just don't have these conversations with people, and if they're gone, you never have that conversation. So it was important to me to go see him and talk to him and share some things with him. So that was good. But we also made a trip. My wife and I made a trip this past weekend to North Carolina. If you ever heard of the Biltmore Estate, we went up there with a gathering with some friends, and there was a celebration of a birthday and hanging out with friends that are important to us, and just enjoying the company and the experience of being through the Biltmore. So, if you've never been to the Biltmore and you feel like making a trip, I recommend you do that. Very cool place, very cool history. Even if you just look up the Biltmore Estate, and if you're familiar with the Vanderbilt family at all, it's just amazing the structure they built there and the how they built it, and it's just amazing. Just put it that way. Yep, Somerset, Pittsburgh, live in Philadelphia. Yep, yeah, Somerset's right on the turnpike, and so if you've ever been in that area, gone skiing like at Seven Springs or Hidden Valley, those were the kind of popular places. But yeah, that's where I'm from. Yeah, I'm not really focused completely on road trips, but that's kind of what I wanted to mention and bring that up. And I did make Donnie. I have to see Biltmore every 5 years or so. Their construction of that house is incredible. It is, Donnie. I mean, I can't relate, until you see that place and the history and everything they did to build this amazing mansion. I mean, it's not a house. There's no way you can call it a house. I think it has, no kidding. I think they said this house has 95 bedrooms. 95 bedrooms. And 65 bathrooms. House, they call it. House. And it has its own swimming pool in the basement. It has a bowling alley, huge kitchen, huge great room with fireplaces. You could stick any kind of oak tree in there you wanted, and just an incredible house. So if nothing else, look it up and be amazed at when this house was built. And I think if these numbers are right, in the time period they built this house, this was like in the late 1800s. It was like $6 million to build, which is like $1.3 billion today or something. I think they planted like 1 million trees there. It started off as 125,000 acres or something like that, and they're down to only 8,000 acres. So anyway, just a cool place. Let's see. Rick, hi Barry. I'm an Army combat veteran myself, and one of my favorite road trips was my trip from my trip from my home in Cincinnati to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service as well, Rick. Yeah, those road trips were great when you were young. Anymore, road trips get to be pretty tough. Grease Rookie, have you ever taken one of your finished project cars on a road trip? You know what? I guess I have. And if you go back and look up some of my videos, I did a video on the restoration of my grandfather's 1931 Model A. There's a two-part segment on that series, and it's basically I started from a rusty car all the way back to taking it back to Pennsylvania so that he and my grandmother could go for a ride in it. And my dad drove the car. So if you haven't seen that video, go look it up, 1931 Model A. But we finished that car in 2007, I believe. And then my wife and I did make a road trip in that car, and we traveled. Not a great big road trip, I'll say that, because you're not going to go very far in a Model A, not a sedan anyway. But I think we traveled 120 miles that day, made several stops. It was just with a group of Model A enthusiasts. But that's probably the only road trip that I've made with any of the cars that I've rebuilt or restored. Um, yeah, Donnie, 201,000 square feet. A Walmart superstore is 225,000 square feet. Yep, massive. Um, Carla, you need to really see the summer homes in Newport, Rhode Island. You know what? I've been up to, it was Rhode Island. We went up to a restaurant up there, um, the Nordic Lodge. And my wife and I went up there for a weekend just to go to eat at the Nordic Lodge. And we drove around and did some sightseeing. So there are some amazing houses in history up in the Northeast. So you might want to check that out if you're ever up that way. But we went to the Nordic Lodge, and they have all-you-can-eat seafood. And I think I ate 4 lobsters along with a bunch of other stuff. But you can look them up too, Nordic Lodge. Check that out. Oh, Carla, you're talking about their summer home. Okay, you're talking about their summer home, the Vanderbilt summer home. Yeah, they've got more than one of these mansions, and just crazy. Rick Middleton, Grease Rookie. I took my car. You see in my thumbnail. Oh, okay. Yeah, the thumbnails are really hard to see. King of Cans, Russell, Arizona, checking in. Yeah, I'm jealous of that. Yeah, yep, Carla, all you can eat seafood at Nordic Lodge. Yep, not cheap. When we went, it was $75 a head, and now I think it's over 100. But all the seafood you can think of, and steaks. And I think you have a 2-hour window to eat. And amazing homemade desserts and hammocks outside for you to lay down in. It was just a beautiful, beautiful place. Really cool. Robert Adams, 3.5-hour trip the other day to Oklahoma City to pick up fenders and have lunch with a friend there. Well, that's cool, and that's part of the trip too. If you can get somewhere and have friends along the way that you can interact with and see, that makes it worth the trip, in my opinion. Trevor, my old boss, has a 9,000 square foot home with a 52 car garage under the house, heated floors, cabinets come down from the ceiling. I helped him haul the dirt to his place. He was at truck show his wife bought. Jeez, I'll never have that problem. Let's see. Yeah, Rick, it's an amazing time doing it, but with these cars, you have to pack accordingly to properly anticipate the issues the car. Yeah, definitely take some tools with you. I used to do that when I was in the military. I had a 72 Chevy short bed, 4x4, lifted up, and I had this big old toolbox that I carried around everywhere I went because you never know. And it just so happened I was somewhere, and this woman had broken down on the side of the road, and it was like a 80 Monza or something, like kind of like a Vega, and I think it had a V6 in it, but the thing was dead in the water, and I had enough parts and pieces and tools that I was able to get the car running again and get her down the road. But I've done that more than once, saved somebody else on the side of the road with their car broken down. Let's see, Donnie, like you two, my wife and I love road trips. Get off the beaten path and wander. We could do it for weeks. Yeah, that was a cool thing about that trip to Rhode Island. We went up there, I think on a Thursday. I think it was Thursday, and got up there. Spent the night in a bed and breakfast type place. And again, the sole purpose of the trip was to go to that restaurant, which we did on Friday night. But in the meantime, we just drove around, and we went to different ports and restaurants, and got a lot of history from the surrounding community. And we even decided, I know, as you can tell, I'll talk to anybody. If you haven't noticed that already, my wife will say that. I'll talk to anybody. We went to some big park, and I just started talking to locals, and I said, hey, what's a cool thing to see around here? You know, is there something that's worth the trip of driving around? And I got several directions from people that took us to these beautiful harbors and got to see some really cool stuff. And um, that was a great trip. I think it's probably one of my favorite trips, not only because I was with my wife, but because we got to experience something new together that we hadn't done before. Because we've made plenty of road trips from here to Pennsylvania. You know, we have family there, so you know we've driven that route probably 30, 40, 50 times at least. I don't know. And so you get bored with it. You know, if you go to Gaffney, South Carolina, there's the Big Peach. You know, well, you can only look at the Big Peach and be excited so many times. But there's a giant peach. There's a water tower painted up like a giant peach, um, and that's like one of the few landmarks. It's, hey, look, there it is. Okay, keep going. But that trip to Rhode Island was fun because we were able to experience that together and have some, you know, make some memories and enjoy the trip and just relax. You know, that's the cool thing about it. Um, let's see, Rick. That's so true, Barry. I feel like I am carrying half my garage in the trunk of that 51. Thank God it's a big truck. Yeah, trunk. Yep. You know, anymore. That's you know, any of these old cars, you got to have tools. I even have a bunch of tools in my Model A. You know, but the Model A is pretty simple. You know, you need a few wrenches and some screwdrivers, and you're pretty much covered. Uh, you know, the more modern the car, the more complicated your tool set is. So, Tom Page, hey Barry, glad to see you from France. Tom Paget, right? Paget. I'm assuming that's the way you say it because of the little accent. Um, Robert Adams, we were looking at places to live around Gaffney. I'm sure it's a great place. I mean, we've only driven past the Big Peach. That's it. Um, let's see. Hey, Joe. Yep. Thanks for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. DP took my 72 Maverick to school, Pittsburgh to Daytona, 900 plus miles, stopped a few times for gas, about 14 and a half hours. Car ran like a top. Yep. You know, I did a trip one time. Um, this was kind of crazy too. I was in my 72 Chevy that I talked about, and that truck was having some issues. Thank you, Tom. My truck was having some issues. One of the issues was I could not open the driver's door. Another issue was I could not shut it off. And the reason for that was the starter was messed up. So I had to park it somewhere on a hill and catch it in gear. I could turn the key on and catch it in gear and drive. Well, I drove that truck from Fort Benning to Pennsylvania. And this was like one of the weirdest trips ever because the license plate, it was on the back of the truck. I didn't have a bumper on it. So the license plate fluttered and blew off. I didn't know it. I kept driving. Every time I stopped at a gas station, I would leave the truck running, climb out through the driver's window, and fill up the truck, climb back in the driver's window, and keep driving. And I ended up, hey Heath, and I ended up getting pulled over in, what was it, Winchester, West Virginia, and the police officer wasn't too pleased that I couldn't shut off my truck. I told him if I shut it off, I can't start it. But I had lost my license plate, and I had an out-of-date insurance card. I had a broken fog light on the front, which they said that was a no-no. My Pennsylvania inspection sticker was expired. There was a whole bunch. He could have just thrown me to the wolves with tickets, but thankfully he was kind enough to give me warnings. And once I got to Pennsylvania, I was able to take care of a bunch of that stuff. But that was a really weird trip. Oh, is it Massachusetts? Am I saying Rhode Island or Massachusetts? Nordic Lodge is in Rhode Island, right? Is that what you're referring to? Sorry. Rick Middleton. Hey, Barry, also one of my favorite road trips was during my 4 years in Germany. I made many a trip over the German countryside and got to see sights most people only see in movies. That would be a cool trip. You know, my family heritage is actually from Germany. So we've thought about that, and my wife too. Anybody from Pennsylvania is going to be Pennsylvania, probably from Germany or that area. It's just kind of the way it goes. But yeah, I would like to go to uh, Germany at some point and do some sightseeing. Let's see. Yep, Donnie graduated in '86. DP Embry Riddle. Yeah, okay, well, I got some A&P mechanics on here. That's cool. Um, let's see. Robert moved to Texas from Hawaii. We drove from California. That was a really long drive when you used to drive around the island in 45 minutes. I'll bet. Hey, Rain Man. Good to have you here. Bernie just got off work. Good. Carla, my husband is finally restoring his 69 Firebird he has had since he was 16 and is now 48. Better late than never is what I say. 30 years of storage. It was the last thing his father got him before passing. Can wait. I'm assuming you mean can't wait for a road trip. I'm assuming that's what that means. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Get it back together and get it on the road. Let's see. Yeah, I've been looking at I've been posting these videos of the viewers projects, and it's gotten really interesting. I've said before, Carla ran out of letters. Tom Perry, come in France and let's make a road trip all around the country in my 73 Mach 1 Q code. That sounds like a good trip. That sounds like a good trip. Um, but as I was saying, I've been doing these viewers project videos, and it's really interesting where they're coming in from. There's going to be more to come. I've got 3 or 4, maybe 5 already lined up, and I'm only going to put these out on like Sundays. So just be aware of that. I'm not going to just keep dumping them, every day. They're going to come out on Sundays, but it's pretty cool that some of these, places like, the one from Australia and Canada and Long Island and Pennsylvania, and then there's going to be, I think the next one coming up is he's in Romania, which I find really amazing. That there's a Mustang being restored over in Romania, and then I know one is coming in from Sweden, and then of course there's a few here in the States. So I'm looking forward to those. That's going to be really, really cool to get all these out there. I mean, I love the fact that not only are we seeing other people's projects, but they're willing to share those projects. And I think that, like I said before, it's really encouraging because everybody thinks they're stuck at home, trying to do these things. But there's a lot of people out there building these cars and rebuilding these cars. Let's see. Rick, okay, Barry, do you have any tricks for torque boxes? I'm working on another 65 and I can do them, but I fight with them every time. The aftermarket never fits right, and I'm always modifying them. Yeah, that's unfortunately, I don't have any tricks other than take them apart. That's what I do. I've done it several times now. I drill out all the spot welds, fit each piece, and weld it back together. These things are never accurately made, and unfortunately, the torque box being the way it is, if you make the whole thing slightly off or wrong, well, it's not going to fit, period. So, you're taking steps backwards to go forwards. Bernie, how's your TIG welding coming along? I haven't done much. I did. I don't know if you all have been looking or not, but I put a video on my Joe Daddy's Workshop channel where I assembled the Vulcan 165 TIG, and I have another video that I've recorded where I've connected everything, and I just did some basic welding on some metal. And I'm debating, maybe y'all can give me some input. I'm debating on whether I should leave those videos on the workshop channel or if I should migrate those 2 videos over to the Joe Daddy's Garage page, because I'm trying to keep that channel. I mean, I'm trying to keep that channel interesting as well, but I don't want to. I don't know. It's kind of tricky to figure out the path that I need to be on with that kind of stuff as well. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at on that idea. Let's see, Robert. The 2-piece torque boxes fit better and go in easier, no disassembly. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, piece by piece, buy them separate, and go from there. And I was trying to think. There was another. Oh yeah, I made that road trip a couple years ago, or maybe it was a year or so ago. Hey, Red. I'm not gonna. Red Squirrel Metal and Wood, Nova Scotia, Canada. Cool. No, let's see. Barry, what's the status for your projects? Well, I'm making some videos. I started on some videos last week for the Brooklyn Pony, and I'm going to be completing that video setup this week, and then starting on another one. And just to give you a little idea, that video that I'm working on is for the hinges. So there'll be a lot more detail on that. I know I actually looked online just out of curiosity to see what videos were out there, for doing hinges. And I found like one on YouTube for like a 67. And I thought, definitely I need to do something, because the video that guy made was not very good. And so I'm trying to, make sure people have an idea how to do these. So that's going to be the next video for the pony. And then I have another one lined up. I think I'm going to do, on the pony car, I think I'm going to do the I Did It steering column. I want to get it mounted and get it in place and make sure everything fits right. So I think that'll be the next one on the Brooklyn Pony. So there'll be 2 coming up on the Brooklyn Pony. Hey, Faraway, glad you're here. The other one, the Jade car, is just sitting right now. I did that spray on the deck lid for that car, and so right now it's in limbo as it goes. But hey, and if here's I want to throw out a shout out to, I know it says, I don't know how I want to pronounce it, Faraway. Go check out his channel if you haven't yet. He's got some cool stuff on there. Does some good paint videos, and he painted up an accordion. I thought that was pretty cool. Really cool looking accordion. Nick, man, that's exactly what I need right now. I like everything you said about everything just now. Columns and hinges. Yeah, and the hinges, I've got the uppers are pretty simple, and the lowers get a little more complicated. And what people, I think, they shy away from trying to salvage the original hinges. And I've shown it before. I did, like on the, I think it was a light blue Mustang I did several years ago. I had bought new hinges because the hinges were really bad that I had. And, I bought new hinges going, okay, I'm just going to bolt these on and be done. No, not the way it works. The hinges that I had bought to put on that light blue Mustang, the holes for the bolts. Now you've got room to play and move those around on the A pillar. Those hinges were so far off that I had to elongate the holes on the hinges themselves just to get it to move far enough, to make it bolt on. That's really why I want to save these original hinges. Anything I've used before, even like I think some of the Camaro stuff I did had new hinges and I had to modify them. I know we did stuff at the body shop, had to modify the aftermarket. I don't know why they can't make them just like the ones that come off the car, But anyway, yeah, that'll be the next video series or next video coming up. And so I think you're going to like that. There's um, some cool stuff about how you do that and how I did it. I think it's going to do really well. Let's see. Yep, Red Squirrel. Yep. Rain Man, you have any luck on aftermarket fenders Mustang 68? I have not played with the any aftermarket fenders on the 68. I do have the fender I fixed in a video. I did a repair video. That was an original fender. I think the fender that's on the right side of the 68 right now, I think that's an aftermarket fender. And I'm going to replace it with a fender that I think I'm going to replace it with another aftermarket fender that a friend of mine gave me. But I have not gotten that far yet. So I have not dealt with that yet. Let's see, Heath, very not sure if you remember me, sent pictures of my 68 Mustang to you and my original bill of sale, my first car I bought 35 years ago. Been working on it thanks to your videos. Cool. Heath, probably if I saw the pictures, I would remember directly, but I don't know how long ago you sent me those pictures, but I get sent a lot of pictures. I get a lot of contact. So forgive me if I don't remember specifically, but if I saw the car or the pictures, or the email or something like that, I'm sure I would remember. But yeah, let's see. Hey, Amaranth Detailing. Yep, glad you're here. I get to see all your stuff on Instagram. You're welcome. I'm going to say far away. I don't know how to say it. It could be far away. It could be far away. So anyway, it's one of those. But yeah, check out Faraway's channel. Let's see. Robert Adams. The new hinges for my 60 fit perfectly, but they pinched the post with a roller, so it has to be spread out so it rolls. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna, on the I have the other hinge sitting on the other bench over there, but the lower hinge has that spring and that little roller deal and all that stuff, and the roller and everything on that hinge is bad, so I'm going to replace all that stuff. Yes, Amaranth Detailing is from Uruguay. That's pretty cool. You're the first one from Uruguay that has been to a live. I could say that. I've mentioned that before. Of course, I get friends and followers from Canada, Australia, France, Sweden. I had Argentina. I think last week I had South Korea. What was the other place? I don't know if I've had any specifically from Germany or not, but plenty of people from around this big, beautiful earth we have. I've said that before, with the internet, the earth gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and I guess that's the cool thing about it, somebody like me who's just working in what I consider a small garage at his home is able to make videos for people around the planet and have you check in during these live streams. It just boggles the mind. Here I am, I'm in my early 50s, and we've been around since the birth and growth of the internet and computers and all the stuff that goes along with that. And before we had cell phones, we didn't, you would call somebody on a payphone, and then you got to the point where you're having pagers, and I quickly discovered that the pager wasn't really that helpful because my wife would page me on the way home from work, and so what do you have to do? She'd page me, and I would pull over some location, use the payphone, call her up, and then she would say, "Get some eggs." So the pager was only helpful to a point, and then we got to the point of having cell phones, and now we have the entire globe, you know, world at our fingertips. And we spend a lot of that time taking pictures of cats. Let's see. Bernie, we appreciate everything you do. Well, I'm thankful for that. I really am. I won't miss dinner tonight. I've actually already eaten, and I went to Crystal tonight and got their. I didn't get their little hamburgers. I got their chicken things, whatever they are, chicken sandwiches, little chicken sandwiches. Anyway, uh, Donnie, 53 is the very, very, very late 40s. Yeah. Hey, Gary, glad you're here. Yeah. 53 is where I'm headed next. But, it's funny. You look at, um, you think about numbers and age and all this sort of thing. Uh, you know, I think, I think after, like I said earlier about visiting my uncle who is going to soon pass away, he's 76 years old. And, he retired from the military, put in, I don't know how many years, but he retired from the military, had a roofing business, did all kinds of stuff, very active. Um, so it's really, when you see people at a certain age, you only see them at that age. You don't see them when they were 20. You don't see them when they were teenagers. You only see them, hey, Dale, you only see them whenever they're at the age they're at right now. So it's hard for us to imagine. Like myself, here I am. I'll be 53 in a couple of months. Um, but I don't feel like I'm 53. I don't think I act like I'm 53. In my mind, I still feel like I'm in my 20s or 30s. And you look at somebody who's old, and you're like, you see them as old, in their 70s or 80s or 90s, whatever. You see them that way. You don't see them when they were visualize them when they were in their 20s and doing things that you did when you were in your 20s. It's kind of weird, but just an observation, And you don't, and again, you don't think about these things very often because you're just living life. But when you're dealing with somebody you care about passing away, you kind of get more. I don't know. You think more about the big picture of those sort of thoughts. But anyway, but I was going to say, I was talking earlier about road trips, and I took a road trip to Texas, um, maybe I don't know, a year and a half ago, and I delivered that Bantam Roadster. That I traded the '55 Chevy for those two Bantam Roadsters, and that trip was interesting because, uh, yeah, Gary, 66, feel like you're 22. Hey, Matt or Matthew, good. Get on that Mustang, man. But I took that road trip with my buddy, and we drove out to Texas and dropped off that Bantam Roadster. And I've flown out to Texas in the past, and you know, again, in your mind, you have a visualization of what you expect to see. So we're driving out that way, and you go through the states, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and you hit Texas. And I guess in my mind, you think about Texas, it seems like it's all going to be like dry and sandy and tumbleweeds and all that sort of thing. But you drive out there and it's not like that at all. Lots of greenery and trees. And now, granted, it's pretty darn flat, and they have weird intersections. Their roads are really set up odd, but it was interesting to make that trip and actually see parts of the country we hadn't seen before. And so we went out there and uh, hit the hit where we were going. Where I don't even remember what city or whatever. Drop off the car, spent the night, and then drove back. And that was a pretty good trip. I mean, it was fun to take those trips. And like I said, my buddy, he lives next door, and we used to race stock cars together. And if we can get together and do a trip like that, I think it's fun and good to spend some time together. Um, let's see, Donnie, my 89-year-old father-in-law thinks he's 60. God love him. Yeah, I understand that. DP, my wife says I act like I'm 18. Yeah. Uh, my wife says I'm pretty immature, I think. Let's see. Uh, hey, Dr. Ozzy. Good to see you here. Good to have you here. Robert Adams, Texas has forests, swamps, mountains, and deserts and coastline. Yeah, it definitely does. And you're not going to see them all in one day, but unless you just, don't stop. But uh, it's a big state, obviously, biggest state in the continental U.S. Um, but it's pretty amazing to see all that. Let's see. Red Squirrel just bought a truck bed from Texas, and I'm sure it's rust-free and solid. That's one thing I noticed too. I was looking at buying a truck several years ago, and I was just, you do random searches and whatnot, and I kept finding these trucks for sale coming out of Texas, and they were, all four-wheel drives, all had brush guards on them, all seemed to be lifted up, and they all seem to have 250,000 miles on them. It's just because you have to drive such great distances to cover territory. Some of the, can't even imagine the size of some of the farmland out there, and just how much, space has to be covered in these trucks. But always a pretty good price. But again, 250,000 miles on these trucks easily. Yeah, Canada is hard on sheet metal. Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure if Canada does the same thing like in the Rust Belt, in the northern states and Midwest where they use salt on the roads. I don't know if Canada does that or not, but yeah, Rick, here you are, Cincinnati, or anywhere up there, Illinois, all along that corridor of the Rust Belt. That's one thing. I built my 68 GMC when I converted it over to that 2006 chassis, and I wasn't even thinking. I just got out the Sawzall and cut up that extended cab 2006 Chevy cab that I had. I couldn't get it off by myself, so I just cut it into pieces and rolled it off the truck. And I had a lot of people were like, "Man, what happened to that cab? Where'd it go? I want to buy it." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that." And then I took a trip for some training up in Illinois. I can't remember where it was, but I see trucks up there that were 2003, 2, 4, 5, whatever, and there's no rocker panels on them anymore, and they're just falling apart. And I thought, yep, that's why those people wanted that cab. But anyway, let's see. Oh, lots of salt. Yeah, I hate that salt gets used like that because, I've gone back to Pennsylvania to visit family during the winter, and one thing I've noticed is the roads. Of course, you get, there's a lot of coal companies and coal mining and stuff like that, so you get a lot of dirty snow on the sides. But what I really noticed was all the dead trees that were on the sides of the road, and I can only assume it was from the salt killing off these trees. You'd have tons of dead, just terrible. And I don't know if it's like that in Canada as well, but that's one observation I had, and it's kind of sad to see it that way. Donnie, the first mile marker in Texas on I-10 we're heading west is 880. It's a long way to New Mexico. Yeah. Yeah. 880 miles. And yeah. Yep. Let's see. Ricky. Hi, Joe. I'm late, so glad I didn't miss you. Hey, Ricky. Glad you're here. Let's see. Donnie. Dallas-Fort Worth to El Paso is over halfway to LA. Yep. Been to El Paso several times, but I flew in. Didn't drive. So, yeah, it's amazing. And that's one thing I noticed too when we were coming into flying into El Paso. Even though it was really flat, we seemed to get a lot of turbulence. and I thought that was odd. I guess it's because of the heat coming off the ground or whatever, causing fluctuations in the flight. But just one of those observations. Um, but anyway, so I was thinking about you know these other road trips that I've made over the years, and again, they're really great if you have a goal that you like. I like to take a road trip where I haven't been before. You know, like I said, I've made that trip to Pennsylvania 50 times, and it's just I'll get on the road, and knowing that I'm headed that direction, I'll start getting sleepy because it's like, ugh, there's nothing to see anymore. But a random road trip going out west or somewhere is more exciting because again, it's places you haven't seen or haven't been to. Um, it's like I've watched. You watch the TV show American Pickers, and of course I know a lot of that is staged and you know generated for the TV, but I think it's kind of cool that they're at least and I don't know how much they really do all this or not, but that they show them driving in different states or in the other little towns and kind of making connections with people and talking to them, and at least the implication is that they're on the road. I know a lot of it's got to be staged or whatever, and they're probably with their, I can only imagine, again, popularity of the TV show, whether they actually, somebody else drives part of that distance and they fly and catch up and then get in the vehicle. I don't know. But I just think it's kind of cool to see them go into different parts of the country, even if it is somewhat staged, but it's still cool to see them show the other parts of the country. Um, oh, okay. There was something else there was something else I was gonna tell you about or talk about, and I can't remember exactly what it was. There's always so much going on. Always, trying to make sure that I've covered the bases when I'm doing the videos and uh, providing information. Oh, that was one of the things. I mailed off if I don't know if he's watching or not, um, and I know I had a hard time when I did the drawing for the T-shirt. The lone, what was it? Stallion Ranch Woodworking. I had a hard time saying that in that drawing video, but if he's watching, I mailed out your T-shirt today, so you should see it in the next couple of days. Hopefully, as long as I did it right and mailed it correctly, it should be on its way. Uh, Heath, I think the only thing that saved my car from salt, it's been off the road for 35 years. Yeah, because they didn't always use salt. I think they just kind of dealt with it. I don't know what era they started using salt on the roads, but um, some of these, and some people really did a good job. They might drive their car and hose it off whenever they got home, from wherever they were going, and try to take care of that stuff. I know that there was a company, what was it, Rusty Jones? Remember them? There was a Hello Rusty Jones, Goodbye Rusty Car, and they would take a car and they would undercoat the whole thing. Just didn't matter what it looked like. They'd layer that up with a quarter-inch of gummy undercoating. It was Rusty Jones, and then Z-Bart. Z-Bart was the other one. So if you ever seen a car from up north, or if you ever were, a car that was built 60s, 70s, whatever, and went to a different state, and you see a little plug on the door jamb or on the door, what they would do, they would drill a hole and spray some sort of gunk in the door, and then put I think it was yellow, a Z-Bart logo. If you ever saw one of those, anybody who grew up north, you might have seen those. So Z-Bart, look them up. I don't even know if they're still around, but they used to do that. They'd spray some sort of I don't even know what it was, tar. And it really didn't help. If your car already had problems, all it did was kind of encapsulate it and create more problems. But it was a big thing to do. Undercoat your car or Z-bar your car. So just one of those interesting, trivial junk that I have in my head. Um, let's see. Donnie, road trip idea. Fly to Denver and rent a car. See red rocks. I saw red rocks. Been there. And then head west and drive over Loveland Pass, then south to Leadville, and on to Royal Gorge and Cannon City, and then south to Mexico. Not a bad idea. A couple years ago, I flew out. My wife and I flew out to Denver. I went to Breckenridge, not during the ski season. It was off season, but we had a military reunion out there, and so we got to see the old military base where the 10th Mountain originally trained, which there's nothing left out there but some concrete bunkers and different things. But we went out there and got a tour of all that. So yeah, we actually drove up to Red Rocks, but unfortunately they had a concert. We couldn't go down to the venue, but we could walk around the perimeter a little bit. And it was cool though. Far away, what camera do you use for your videos? I need to upgrade. Well, hold that thought. All right, let's go. Since you asked, the current camera that I use is a Canon Vixia HFR 800. That's the current camera. And prior to that, I used, I think it was a 700 model. Now I gotta wait for this to focus. Great, now I'm out of focus. Maybe that was a bad idea. Can't get it. There you go. Anyway, that's the camera I currently use. I do use occasionally I'll use a GoPro Hero 7. I like it. And also for some of the more interesting shots, I haven't used it in a while. I have that Osmo pocket camera, DJI, with a gimbal on it. You can program it and do funky things with it. If you looked at the hinge, Mustangs to Fear hinge video that I did for the Brooklyn Pony, I did kind of a motion lapse of me putting on the hinges. I did that with the Osmo camera. And I've got more, I don't know, those are my primary, cameras. In the past, I've used this little Kodak, little handheld. I did a bunch of videos with this thing. But as I've progressed and improved, I've upgraded my cameras. So that's where I'm at right now. Let's see. Robert Adams, yes, I have had the displeasure of working on a Camaro covered in Z-bar plugs. So you know what I'm talking about. And I believe they were yellow. I think they were yellow. You can back me up on that. Dr. Oz, yes, there is one here in town. There's still a Z-bar? They're still in business? Wow. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Red Squirrel, from now on I will be using fluid film every fall and spring. Yep, fluid film does a good job. Let's see, I don't know how to, Ham, good evening and let's show, but glad to see and hear the dialogue. Glad you're here, appreciate it. And I'll point this out. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody coming in. If you would, throw a thumbs up on there. I emphasize that in all my videos. I talk about it. I don't do it at the beginning. If you watch all the way to the end, and you may see my bloopers or whatever. I like to have a little fun at the end because, hey, I don't get it all right on the first take, and I might have to reshoot some things, as you've seen. But it's really important if you're watching my videos, you know, throw a thumbs up on there or leave a comment, even if it's just thanks or anything like that. All those things help with YouTube promoting my videos and helps the channel grow. So that's a, just a reminder. Thank you. Um, let's see. Neil checked in late, so apologize if you covered this, but how much sleep do you lose over rust in your frame rails? I've never come up with a great way to address it without dipping the vehicle. You know what, Neil? I'm going to say I don't lose much sleep over rust in the frame rails. If you're talking about Mustangs in particular, um, depending on where your car is from and what kind of life it's had, you know, here's the thing. I've talked about this in other videos. If you look at the lifeline or lifetime of the car you have, if these Mustangs that were built to be thrown away after 5 or 10 years, they've survived 30, 40, 50 years with no metal treatment at all. Just put it that way. So if you're rebuilding one of these cars or restoring or whatever, anything you do is going to help preserve that car. So if you put any, if you're putting in a floor pan, prior to replacing the floor pan, clean it up and coat it with some Por 15 or Chassis Save or something like that. Or like I did on the Jade, I went in and I blew out all the junk in the rocker panel and I was rebuilding the back end of it. And I took a syringe and shot Por 15 or Chassis Saver, one of the two, way up in there, and I took an air hose and blew it all the way through the rocker panel, all over the place. So, again, I live in Georgia too, so I'm not really going to stress over having salt and those kind of problems, but anything you do to help preserve it, because along with that, it's unlikely you're going to be driving this car every single day and putting it through the same torture that it was through when they were new. People bought these cars to drive to work, to do their jobs, to go to the store, to buy groceries. That was their commuter car. So now, when we built these cars, when do we drive them? When it's nice outside, going to a cruise, might drive it to work on a nice day. So those kind of things are what I think about as far as my concern with rust and whether I need to be, overly protective or, reactive to that. So anyway, just my opinion. Amaranth, this is a great question, and for the rest, let's see. This is a great question, and for Amaranth, you may have to rephrase that. Let's see, because and I know there's some of a language barrier, but that is a great question. And for I know he says lies. I don't know, what do you use? The old one. We may have to rephrase that question. I'm confused. Robert Adams, better road trip idea. Fly out to Dallas-Fort Worth April 25th, and you'll have transportation to the Pate Swap Meet and lunch at Giant Burger. That's tempting. It is. It's really tempting. Let's see. Robert Adams, the plugs on this one were black, but the older ones were yellow. Oh, you know what? I still don't have my bell. I'm really letting myself down here. I was going to have a bell that I could hit when I made a good point. So I knew the plugs were yellow. So ding, ding, ding. That's all I got. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. I appreciate that. Robert Adams, even with no rust proofing, any car I build will not have rust issues until long after I'm gone. Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. Amaranth. I was asking what camera you're using for the videos. Okay. Yeah. Spanish corrector. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. The Canon Vixia HRF 800. Or, yeah, HFR 800 HD. That's my primary camera. And I'll probably upgrade this camera too. I had this 700 model that I had. It quit working altogether. And I bought this camera. And I was making a welding video. And a spot of molten metal hit the lens. You could probably find that video if you really wanted to. But it hit the lens and melted the lens. thankfully, I kept the other camera, the 700, took it apart, and was able to transfer the 700 lens onto the 800 camera. Hear that? That's my air compressor backing off pressure because I shut the line off, and so it'll drain off some moisture, whatever. So that's what that noise was. It wasn't me. But anyway, I was able to transfer the 700 lens onto the 800 camera. So I'll probably upgrade at some point and get a better camera. Anyway, um, Ricky, I will do that in my rocker panels. Thanks, Joe. Port 15. What do you suggest that I coat my 63 Chevy Nova under bottom with? That's not too expensive, but good. Well, it depends on the condition. You know, if the car's solid and rust free, I mean, and it's got, if it's got bare metal and clean, spray it down with epoxy, and then come back with a basic undercoating. Like I've used in the past 3M in the spray cans undercoating. You can use that. I think actually Harbor Freight sells a product, a sprayable undercoating, so you could use that. I've used. I haven't tried it, but I've heard other people talk about it. I think we mentioned this in the last video, but I'll get back to you, Amaranth. But the other thing I talked about before in the past was using bed coating, like bed liner. Tough stuff, you know. Brush that. You could brush that on there if you wanted to. That would be a good cheap way to get everything coated up. Neil, I've always been tempted to use one of those rattle cans with the long spray hose, but I know it probably be encasing a bunch of wasp and mouse nests. Yeah, we always blow that stuff out of there as best you can. I know it's easier, like for the Jade Mustang, I had to cut off the end of the rocker panels anyway. Well, part of them because I had replaced the wheel houses, and I could take a light and look in there, and I did find a bunch of junk in there. I just kept blowing it out front to rear until I got everything out of it before I coated it. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Amaranth, for the live videos, I am using a Logitech, and I don't know the number. It's an HD something. Just a little webcam. It's only like this big. I don't know if I could. Let's see if I can pull this off. I'll do this. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. So I've got a picture of the camera. And now, there's a picture of the camera. Camera looking at itself. So that's what I'm using for a webcam. Not sure that helps much, but that's what it is. Raptor liner. Yep, that's a good product. I mean, I've not used it, but Raptor liner, I've heard about it. I think we talked about that last time, so that might be a good product to use. Lizard skin. Yeah, lizard skin is going to be applied to the Brooklyn Pony. After everything is taken care of underneath, and all the bare metals hit with epoxy. Once everything's completed, it's going to get lizard skin on the bottom, inside the wheel well or the quarter panels, wheel wells, everywhere I can. It's going to get lizard skin sprayed in it. So that'll come later. Let's see. What rims do you have on Jade? They look great. Can't find the video you showed them. That's a good question. I don't remember the specific name of those rims, but I think yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the name. They're like torque thrust is a style. But if you go to if you're on my Facebook page, Joe Daddy's Garage Facebook page, you can go to the Jade photo album, and I think they're in there. You can just find them. I'm pretty sure I put those pictures in there. Let's see. Matt, I've thought about using boat bottom paint. I found some for 30 bucks a gallon. Bottom paint is some tough stuff and a rust preventer. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's thinking outside the box. And I like that. That's a great idea. So look that up, boat paint or boat bottom paint. You know, it's like the at the body shop we had, you know, I know PPG was the products we used, but they also had a line of paint that was for like semi trucks because it's tougher. You know, it takes some impact. So we used to have we'd paint certain things with that uh, paint for semi trucks just because it was more durable. So yeah, good thought. Boat paint. That's a good thought. I don't know what's in it, but that may work well. Rain Man, I use Raptor liner under my 67 Mustang convertible. There you go. Yeah, the camera, it works good, you know, because I've got, you know, right below this camera is my laptop. The image you get from the laptop is not very good. And so when I first started doing my live videos, first ones I attempted were in my home, in my little home office space. And it worked, but I used that same little camera, but it was not very good. I'll just admit. I really didn't know what I was doing. And there's a lot of things I didn't know what I was doing years ago. But as I'm getting more experience and figuring things out, it's improving, obviously. But you know, out here I had to add a light, which is what you see right here, generic light, just to kind of help the camera see. But anyway, it worked out pretty well. Amaranth. Okay, yeah. Now I'm gonna say Amaranth. You've got Jejej, which I'm assuming that's a laugh. That's like ha ha ha. So that's I'm gonna take it as that. um, Two bike Mike. I have one of those web cameras. They're not very good. Well, this one's. I mean, it's doing a. I feel like it's doing a pretty good job. You know, I mean, from what I can see of myself, I'm pretty clear. And of course, with my internet, that also kind of affects. Uh, I don't know the quality or whatever, but um, let's see. Oh, thanks to okay, boat paint. Way cool. Thanks. Good. There you go. So Ricky got some information, and I got some information I hadn't thought about before with that boat paint. You know, I like that. Thinking outside the box. Ding. That would be a ding. If I had my bell right here, you would get a ding, ding, ding. But I'm dropping the ball on the bell thing. I'm gonna have to get that. My wife is probably watching right now, so I'll just tell her, order me one of those little bells. Ding, ding, ding. You know, at the office hotel. I'll find out. I'll let her. I'll let you know. I'll tell her to order me one of those bells and message me, and that way I know if she's watching the videos or watching this video. um, Gotta go. 4 a.m. comes early. Oh yeah. See you, Red Squirrel. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Let's see. Ham replaced a front clip because of rusty front rails on a 72 Mach 1 as the rust was so bad coming from Ogden, Utah to southeast Wisconsin in the mid 80s. My first car 36 years ago and still have it. That's pretty cool. Anybody who's has a car, I have a hard time keeping a car 5 years, to be honest. Now, granted, I have cars in here. I have the Jade Mustang. Somebody pointed out a while ago on one of my videos that I actually started or bought that Jade Mustang 7 years ago. Where did the time go? But along with that, I'm working on a third Mustang while I'm building Jade. So this is, the Brooklyn Pony is the third Mustang has been in the works since starting on Jade. So yeah, I have a hard time keeping cars. As I said before, my dad had a junkyard, so we would trade off cars every 6 months or a year or whatever. Um, Amrat, it is. The H is mute in Spanish. So again, the corrector. I get it. Persistent. Okay. Yeah, Amaranth, I've seen that before on some other forums where it's for us, we can't, it doesn't sound right because we're got the whatever, but for you, that sounds correct. So it's just a different perspective. Um, Ham, current project has minimal rust. Have you ever tried the Harbor Freight dustless blasting kit at all? I have not. So sorry, I have not. Maybe one day. Um, Matt F, I need a bell. Yeah, yep, you get the ding ding, but I, I don't have it. Um, let's see, Ricky. Yeah, good. Glad you got some information, Ricky. Rusty Ranch, Texas. Prep before undercoating anything. Love your videos. Well, thank you, Rusty. Yeah, it's hard to believe. I don't think rust when I think Texas, but um, yeah, thank you. I'm glad. I really, um, especially with doing these, um, like the viewers projects videos. That's really, I love that. I have to admit, I really love the fact that I get to see the projects that in some way I feel like I've given some help or advice to. I love that. I mean, as I said before, as I'm even like sitting here now, I'm talking to a camera. I'm looking at a little box, image of myself on my laptop. I'm reading some words on the side, looking at various things, but it's rare for me to get the feedback, other than verbal feedback, which is fantastic. And like I said before earlier, thumbs up, comments, love it, helps. But now that I'm able to get these viewer projects videos, I love it. It makes me feel that I really am helping people. I know I am, and I know that I hear it all the time. But to see the visual is really great. It just changes the perspective. And I guess, I'm at like 35,000 subscribers. The channel is taking off, which is great. But having 35,000 subscribers, and occasionally I get pictures, and I may have conversations with people. Um, but to see those videos, that's just so rewarding. It's just amazing, and it just makes it all worthwhile. Believe me. Um, let's see, Robert Adams. That camera for LOML. I'm not sure what LOML, but okay. Has that camera for Twitch. She's also the oldest person on Twitch playing video games. It is very clear, but on a wired connection, Wi-Fi doesn't cut it. Well, that's where I'm at. I'm on Wi-Fi. Until I figure out a way to get a wire out here to my garage, you're going to get semi-focused me, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how else to handle it. Let's see. Ricky Wolf 68 Fastback. Sweet. Okay, Rusty Ranch. Texas Panhandle can get cold and snowy. Mud is a big problem. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want snow or mud or cold. Heath Mustang. Barry, how much you inspired all of us to start working on our cars again. Great job. Thank you. Really. I mean, it is really cool. Let's see. David Nugent. Love your videos. Can't wait to get work on my Chevelle. Cool. All right, Gary. I see some symbols there. I'm guessing it's wind blowing. Thumbs up. I don't know. We'll see you, Gary. Thanks for dropping in, and we'll catch you next time. But anyway, yeah, and I mentioned this before. When I started this channel, it was to promote the body shop, and that was working somewhat. And so the the early videos that I was doing, I wasn't really thinking about it from this aspect where people could use the information. The idea behind it was to promote the body shop and show people what we were capable of doing, but really not about the details so much. It was more about, here's this, fix this, here's this, we fix that kind of concept, and then it kind of generated a little bit, I'll say kind of flowed in a little bit more of an instructive kind of angle. But it wasn't until I, left the body shop and started thinking about it more. And, Jade was, honestly, the Jade, even though they're not great, I could have done better. The Jade Torque Box videos were the first videos that I did after I left the body shop. And so if you're looking at a timeline, that was whenever the channel was going to be used for a whole different approach. And I was thinking I was using, like I said earlier, something very similar to this little camera and trying to film that stuff. And, as I've gone along, like, prior to that, I did some Camaro videos, the dune buggy, when I modified that chassis for the dune buggy, it wasn't in that same mindset, and I had somebody, yeah, Donnie, no coffee tonight. I guess I forgot. But somebody had made a comment this week that they said they watched my fender video where I repaired the 68 fender, and they said they had watched my earlier videos and they didn't like the way I presented myself. And I got to thinking about that a little bit. It's like, what was I doing wrong, or what did I do that they didn't like? And I went back to, like, when he said earlier, I'm assuming much earlier, to where I wasn't so much trying to be instructional, but just trying to show what we could do, with time. So anyway, Roberts, I have to run Cat 6 into what is her current office as soon as she got the computer up and running and found the bandwidth wasn't high enough. She's an old game nerd. Okay. Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to have to figure something out if I'm going to, I'll keep doing this. I want to keep doing the videos out here in the shop. It just makes sense. I don't need to be doing them anywhere else. But even if I did them in the house, they would still be on Wi-Fi, unless I did my office space, which I'm not, I don't want to do that. So from the internet cable comes in the front of the house. And I guess I could talk to my provider and find out what it would take to bring it all the way around. It would probably be, it'd be over 100 feet, maybe 150 feet of cable or something. Not, I don't know. I'll figure something out, or I'll just keep on doing it like this because, like I said, from here it looks pretty good. So, and then you're not here for my looks, obviously. You're here to hear stories and information. So. Anyway, let's see. Danny Still, can you replace truck floor pans without removing the rear quarter panels? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Let me read that again. Can you replace, I'm thinking you're trying to type trunk floor pans without removing the rear quarter panels, drop-off panel, and front and rear cross member. Well, you're talking about the hump over the axle, Danny? Is that what you're referring to? Because that would be pretty tough to get in there and not have to remove the drop-off panels, because the drop-off panels sit on top of everything, and so you might have a hard time with that. Thank you, Fairway. I'm not sure if I can answer the question you're asking, Danny. Without removing the rear quarter panels, drop-off panel, and front and rear cross member. I guess you could. It's going to be tough to get things in there, though. Just know that. And it seems like an odd repair, because if you got a bad trunk floor pan, I mean, part of that is a drop off. It all kind of flows together. Um, so I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to. But if you go back and, if you look at the Mystique Mustang, I did that one piece drop in panel, and I actually cut it and modified it to make it set in there. So I don't know if that helps or not. Sorry. Heath, 68 Mustang, what was your first car? Well, the first car I was assigned as my own was a 74 AMC Matador. Ugliest car on the planet. That was the first car that I was assigned by my dad. The first one I actually owned in my name with a title and everything was a 72 Chevy long bed. That was the first vehicle that I owned. So, Ricky Wolf. Okay, kudos to your wonderful wife also, Joe. I know it's a lot on her. Yeah, thank you. I know she, I've talked about this before. She knew what she married. She knew what she was getting into. I don't know if she expected all, this sort of thing, but she knew I was into cars, and I would be all my life. So yeah, she puts up with me. So let's see. The stream looks good on my end, way better than the average FaceTime call. Yeah, okay. Pontiac 442. The new subscriber video segments are great. It gets others involved in our video YouTube world. Thanks for spending your time to bring these to us. But yeah, like I said, it is. I think it just helps people understand that they're not in it alone. Even if they're just watching my video or other people's videos or whatever, they can grasp that whole concept that there's other people involved in doing it too. Let's see. Robert Adams. I don't have internet in my shop. Metal building. Faraday cage. Yep. So no Wi-Fi, and it's over 100 feet of trench to dig to run Cat 6. Yeah. I'm lucky enough that when I built the shop, it's only, you've probably seen in some of the videos, it's only 30, 40 feet from the house. And so I put a Wi-Fi extender out in our sunroom, and it's enough that it handles this. And then I had to upgrade the service level we had. I think when I did a second live video prior to that, I upgraded my internet service, so I had a faster upload speed. Not that it was any great number, but it's something that I did. Let's see. Robert, oh yeah, you said, far away. Is that a Metallica poster? Yep, it sure is. It's kind of hard to see, but it has the 55 Chevy on it, and on the bottom it says, "Give me fuel." So yes, I am a big time Metallica fan, along with AC/DC and whatever. But big time Metallica. Been with them from listened to them from the beginning. But that's their "Give Me Fuel" poster, and I've had that up there for a while now. Seen them in concert a couple times. Pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. Good observation though. That's really hard to pick out. I mean, you can see the 55 Chevy, but it's really hard to pick out the fact that it's a Metallica poster. Yeah. Robert Adams. My dad bought a Matador when it was a year old. He liked the car. Of course, we also had a green Gremlin for a short time. Well, that Matador was brush painted or roller painted, maybe both, black and green, and it had green plaid interior, and it was a 6-cylinder. Ugly, just ugly car. Could not. Ricky Wolf. Joe needs a Led Zeppelin poster too. Yeah, I like Led Zeppelin. I don't know which one I would put up though. I could line. Honestly, probably my favorite band is AC/DC, and so I could easily line these walls with AC/DC posters and Metallica posters and be very happy. And you never know, it might happen. But um, as it is, I've got my own eclectic artwork hanging on the walls, all my various uh, license plates and signage and banners and whatnot that I put up. So yeah, climb to glory, right of the line, darn tootin'. uh, yeah, well, the extender's all I have to deal with right now, Robert. Just just trying. Uh, cool, Metallic, Alice Cooper, Cinderella, Dio, etc. Yeah, yeah, lots of. But I'm also a big fan of '70s music. I have to say, I'm a big fan of '70s music. Grew up listening to it. My brother, who is 6 years older than me, he listened to all the Doobie Brothers and I mean all those cool bands with loads of instruments and stuff. So I love all the '70s music. Um, you know, great era for music. Can't beat it. I'm not sure what ooh is for, Robert. Danny, sorry, the whole trunk is kind of rusted out. They make the whole kit, but I was wanting to know if it was possible to replace everything with patch panels. Oh, yes, you can. You can. The hardest part, I've done it. In fact, I don't know if I have a video showing that or not. One of my older videos that I did back at the body shop was for a '68 Mustang Coupe, a red one. It's the first one I put vintage air in, and I modified a bunch of stuff on it. If you were to go back to that video, and depending on what condition your pan and all those pieces are, I actually sectioned in that gas tank area with, I took the drop-off panels and I cut them and used the edges. You have to see it. But anyway, I didn't do the whole panel. So if you really has to deal with the gas tank, you might be able to section in all those pieces. Otherwise, you can put the drop-off panels in. Um, the back, you're going to have a hard time, dealing with that. And then the front section, if you look at again at the Mystique Mustang, I sectioned in the front half. I didn't go all the way up into the rear seat area. So you may be able to get some information from that. But I have sectioned in those pieces, and I know it was a '68 Mustang. It was a red one, and it was probably in 2012 or 13. So you might look at that. Might give you some insight, help you out. Danny, I was hoping to not remove the quarter panels. Yeah, I mean you can do it without removing the quarter panels. Just think about how things fit together, because that pan, the hump area in particular, it welds to the wheel houses. So you got to be careful getting all that out of there. You have to probably cut it out in pieces, and you may have to. I don't know if you can. You should be able to fit. I think you can fit it in the trunk. Maybe kind of snake it in there, um, and piece by piece. So I think you can do it. Uh, let's see. Yeah, for those about to rock. Yes. Hey, Nick. Glad you're here. Um, let's see. Robert Adams. Yep, great band. '60s to early '90s was great stuff. Yeah, I agree. I mean, all the music in almost everything in the '70s was. I'm not going to go into disco, but all those cool Creedence and uh, so many cool bands, so many cool bands. Um, Bishop, what are the best aftermarket quarter panels for '65 Mustang Coupe? That's a good question. Um, I can't say specifically. As I mentioned before in the videos, a lot of the panels I've used, particularly on the Brooklyn Pony, they said Dynacorn on them, and you can look at my videos and say, well, those didn't fit very well. I I, I really can't point at one manufacturer and say go with this brand, because even if I do, they could change mid-run into a whole nother, I don't know, print, stamping or whatever, and have issues. So I can't. I wish I could just say this is the best one, period, but I can't. So I'm gonna just have to default to Dynacorn. I hate to say that, but that's kind of where it's at. Um, let's see. Michael Law, is it better to get upper and lower cowl as one or two piece? I'm thinking two. Go with two. Just do it. Everything I put in has been two. I guess the point being, if you put in the one piece, well, I'm proactive. So if you go back to the light blue Mustang, or even the Brooklyn Pony, I think I did the same thing. When I installed it, I did the lower half first, obviously, and then I put some seam sealer around the towers where it would gather water, just as a precaution. I seam sealed around that flange to try to keep moisture out of there. I added some more paint, and then I welded in the top piece. So think of it that way. How can you further protect what you are installing? That's why I would go with two piece. Mark, we all here must be about the same age. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. Yeah. I mean, it's funny though. As we were saying earlier in the stream about how we feel like we're a certain age, or we act like we're a certain age, but we don't look like we're that age. Yeah, Danny, go check out those videos. I do remember that specifically of not boxing that in, cutting it. Yeah, just go check it out. Yep, fairway. Yep. Yeah. Donnie, I extend as far as Ozzy. He's my favorite after his early days with Black Sabbath. Yep. Yeah. I mean, and he's still alive. I like his TV show, by the way. If you ever seen it, where he's done the Ozzy something America, like him and his son traveled across the United States visiting odd places. I thought that was a blast. I think it was pretty cool to see him doing that that show. Yeah, our cars keep us younger. Yeah. Yep. Let's see, Robert Adams. I have a Golden Legion for my '66, and it measures good and looks good, but I haven't gotten to doing it yet. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I've said before, and I don't remember if I did it on the Brooklyn Pony or not, but on the other quarters I put on, the left side was, I think it was too long. And I actually had to slice out like a quarter of an inch and shorten it up to make it fit the car. Paul, let's see, Paul Olson, what do you think about Enlist wheels? Worth the money. Enlist. I'm not sure what Enlist is. You might have to rephrase that. I'm not familiar with Enlist. Sorry, I don't know I'm not even sure exactly what you're asking. Dr. Ozzy, I'm in my mid-30s, but agree old school music is better. Old school music is better than anything today. You're darn right it is. You're 40, but you feel 70. I think you're doing it wrong. Yeah, old music, you can't beat it. I mean, think about it. I went to see the Doobie Brothers in concert, me and my wife, and we saw Chicago, the Doobie Brothers. We went to see, well, ZZ Top they're struggling. We went to see, I can't think of the other guy's name. He wasn't Creedence. Anyway, but the Doobie Brothers sound just like they did then. Chicago sounds just like they did then. And I think we saw, not Rush. Anyway, we watched, we see these concerts, and these guys are playing real instruments, and they're singing, and they're in tune, and you go to a more modern show, and you don't even know if they're actually playing or not, or if they're actually singing, or if they have to use some auto tune function to make themselves sound good. those old bands were just amazing, and you just can't beat them. I mean, even today, they've been around forever, and they're still performing. So, uh, yeah, I love the old music. I say old, 70s, 60s, and but anyway. Um, let's see, Robert, your driver's side quarters were around quarter inch. Yeah, quarter inch too long. Yeah, and cut them down. It's weird. Um, oh, Paul, you're trying. Okay, English wheels. I get it now. Sorry, it says enlist. I mean, I can only go with it says enlist, and I'm sure if you're typing something, it kind of picks a word they think you want. Um, I've used an English wheel. I don't know if I ever showed it. I don't have one here at the shop right now. I used it. We had one at the body shop, and I used it on the 65 Galaxy that I did a ton of work to, and it helped me get some curves that I needed. But for the most part, I don't have much need, let's say, for the English wheel because most of the panels that I'm going to get now, they're at least close enough that I can modify them with some cutting and different things like that. I'm not having to hand form or make patches per se, but so I mean they do have their use, but I can't justify having one right now. I just so I don't have one. Donnie, I saw Disturbed recently and they're on point. Yeah, you know another amazing band from a very technical standpoint is Tool. Their music is amazing because of how dead on they are when they're playing. Um, but I can't listen to them like continuously. Tool is one of those bands where I can only take in a song or two and I have to get away from it because it just becomes overbearing in a sense. So yeah, Tool, Disturbed, I'll give them credit. They're pretty good. Now, um, now my son, he may be watching this, and I can't name. I can only name a couple of the bands that he listens to, but he's into the I don't know what you call it. I don't know the name. Like the screaming rock, where they're he likes that stuff. Eh, I love the way they play, the drums, the music, the guitar work, and all that stuff. I just don't. I'm not into the whatever that is. So, but they have some amazing musicians, and I'm sure the guys, people go see them, but just not my genre, not my thing. Uh, let's see. Uh, just saw Bob Seger. That would be a cool. Um, Dr. Ozzy. Well, I'm a big Elvis fan, but love my 80s hair metal. You know what? I grew up with Elvis. My mom listened to Elvis all the time on her record player. Big fan of Elvis. I can't argue that at all. 80s hair band. I listened to Poison and Rat and Cinderella and Motley Crue and you know I I definitely listened to all that stuff too. I did, and I still like it. I mean, I do. It's cool. Um, Romero 66. I can't seem to find the passenger sail panel and the door jamb B pillars. Where I can find them. I'm assuming you're referring to a 66. I'm not sure where you can find the sail panels. I don't know for I have not researched that very much. The B pillar that should be I think it should be available because the 66 convertible I used B pillars from Dynacorn. So those you should be able to get, even if it's you have to modify it because I think they make them to fit the fastback, and you have to modify it for the window openings if you have a coupe. Um, but Dynacorn makes those, so you can get them, and I'm sure somebody makes the B pillars, but I can't name offhand who has them in stock. So somebody else may know. We'll see if that comes up. Um, Donnie, I think Tool intends to assault our senses. That's what I'm saying. They'll their music is so spot on and intense that like I said, I can only listen to a couple of songs and then I have to get away from it. I have to just back off and find something else. I listen to like iHeartRadio, and I'll pull up the 70s channel and listen to that all day, or I'll listen to Big Classic Hits, I think is one of their stations. And occasionally I'll go off on a tangent and I'll listen to old, and I mean old country music. Nothing from the 80s and 90s. It has to be 60s or 50s and 70s, that kind of country music. I can appreciate that a lot more than what I'm going to call pop country. Just my opinion. No offense. Um, let's see. Ricky, my husband is on his 14th bladder and kidney cancer since 2008, so I'm restoring my 63 on myself. And your videos are so informative. They help me a lot, Joe. Thanks, brother. Cool. That's good to know. And I'm sorry to hear about the bladder and kidney cancer, though. That's got to be terrible. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just sorry to hear that. Donnie, my son has his own screamo metal band, and they practice at my house. Talk about assault on one's senses. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you need some soundproofing. Just a thought. Robert Adams, check out Nightwish. They're a Finnish band and pretty good. That might be worth looking into. DP, that's funny, Donnie. My son's band is pretty good. I'm their biggest fan. Yeah. Saw Ghost twice with my boys. Not familiar with Ghost, but I'll have to take your word for it. Donnie Corn has a roof kit that includes the sail panels for the coupe, but they do not sell the sail panels separate. I wonder why that is. I mean, they've got to have there's a market for it. Why? How hard can it be if you're going to produce sail panels and roof panel? How hard can it be just to sell the sail panels? I don't get it. But I guess they want to sell them as a big kit. Yeah, old country music, Charlie Pride. Yeah, good singer. Mike Cullen, I watched your video on the Mr. Cool install. I'm curious about the square footage you heat and cool with it. Thanks. Well, Mike, the square footage in the shop, the footprint is 24 by 36. So that's roughly 900 square feet. However, the ceiling is almost 12. The rafters are almost 12 feet tall. And then above that is my insulated, I sprayed it with spray foam. So I'll be honest with you. I've got this wall, that wall, but not that wall insulated. And then I have, there's my compressor kicking on again. Hang on. Anyway, so this will heat and cool, but when it heats, it has to stay running. If it's chilly, if it's below 40 degrees or whatever, it's going to stay on constantly because it can't. This space is not insulated well enough, especially with this roll-up door over here that I have these blankets attached to try to help keep the heat in. But it works. It does keep this. I can keep it in here about 68 degrees with it just running. And then of course in the summer it seems to do a better job cooling than it does heating. I don't know why. I guess it's just the way the system is. But I think if I had done it a different way, I would have done a dual head unit so that I had one on either side of the shop, or one at the front and one at the back, or something like that, so that they could work together to cool it down. Um, but I mean, it does a job. But just know that it's going to probably have to run a good bit to keep it comfortable. Hope that helps. Let's see. You're welcome, Ricky. Bondo and Beer 68 Nova. Hi, I appreciate all you do for us. I have a question. I'm using a weld pack welder, no gas. What is your wire size and kind when replacing quarter panels? Please help. Okay. I do not recommend using a gasless welder or a flux core welder for doing patch panels or doing quarter panels or any kind of sheet metal work. I do not recommend that. It's just not as good. The flux core is great for heavy duty welding and stuff like that. I do not recommend it for sheet metal. So if you can, get yourself a MIG or convert that if you can to a MIG, which is you use argon CO2 mix. The wire size that I use in my MIG is either 0.023 or 0.025 wire, depending on, I think those are the sizes. I know it's either 023 or 025. And then I just, I buy it from Harbor Freight. It's just wire. It doesn't really affect much. Now, if I'm doing some heavier welding, I'll swap over to 0.030, 30 thousandths, and turn up the heat. Does a great job. But you really want to have, a gas MIG welder. So, yeah, Ronnie Millsap. Yep. Robert, I wonder if the fit of the Repro sail panels are that far off from the original that they won't want the returns on them. That's a good point. Yeah, very good point. Let's see, Donnie, DP, we're very supportive, but with our earplugs when they practice. Yeah. Let's see, Bob Shoemaker made a trip this weekend to look at a 70 Mach 1 I owned 20 years ago. Sad shape, but might be doable. Yeah. That's eventually I'm pretty sure I'm going to have either, probably, I want a 69. I do. But I would probably do a 70 if it, fell into my lap. But yeah, I'll probably have one. And I think I've mentioned this before. And if I haven't, I'll mention it now. Not far from me at all. I mean, not far. I know a gentleman who has an original 69 Mach 1, which is Acapulco blue, black and, black stripes on the side, hood scoop and everything like that. I'm very sure it's a 390 car, automatic, that this man bought brand new in 69. I think he'd gotten out of the Navy or something. I think he was in the military. Yeah, he was in the military. Maybe it was Air Force. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He bought the car brand new, and he's taken it apart a couple times over the years, redone some things, put it back together. He is currently, I think I saw him the other day at a restaurant, and he actually approached me and let me know that he was putting the engine back together, probably the third or fourth time he's rebuilt that engine. And I suggested to him that I'm going to stop by his shop and do a video. I think it would be awesome. You talk about viewers, videos and different things like that, but to find somebody who still has the original car they bought in 1969, okay, so 51 years ago, right? He's got to be, I know he's got to be mid-70s, and he still has a business. He's still working. but I think it would just be cool to do an interview with him and let him tell us about his car, some of his history, different things he's done, and what he's gonna, I'm just amazed. I've walked into a shop a couple times over the past few years, and it's sitting up on jack stands, and looked it over and just amazed that this car's in such fantastic condition, and that he's had it all this time. And he's also, I think he has another, what is it? I think he's got a '69 coupe sitting in the back of the shop. But anyway, just a really neat guy. So I'm going to try to get a video of him at some point this year. And yeah, anyway, so look forward to that at some point in the future. BK Woods. Great stuff. Also, thanks for the recommendation on Harbor Freight Flex Light. Great for putting light right where I need when welding my '66 Cyclone. All right, Paul. Yeah. Yep. Always here. I got 2 of them. I keep them charged up all the time. I don't know what the other one is right now. It's probably still attached to the underside of the Brooklyn Pony where the last time I was under it. But yeah, I keep those lights charged up and at the ready all the time. And they're very, very helpful. So glad I bought those. Time for some more 50/50 tea. Half sweet, half unsweet. All right, Ricky. Glad you stopped by. And come back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, right? See who remembers that. It was actually before my time. But I watched the reruns. I'm sure we all did. Anyway, there was I read an article about that the other day. The old Batman and Robin. Oh, speaking of lights, I wanted to show this to you. I saw this the other day, well, before Christmas. So, been over a month ago, put it that way. This was at Tractor Supply. Apparently this light, Attack is the name, and they make these for Harbor Freight. This is a pretty cool light. Now I haven't even taken it out of the package yet. I used it, I had it on at their store, looked at it and was pretty excited about it. And I actually bought one and gave it away at a Christmas party. All my friends know that I'm really into lights. Just have this fixation with lights. So my wife decided to get me one of these for Christmas, but it was at another Tractor Supply in like a whole nother town. And so I drove to that Tractor Supply and bought this light so that she could put it in my stocking for Christmas. Anyway, this thing is really cool. Let's see. This thing it's like a headband. It's got a headband on it. Okay. And it's got a wristband. And it's rechargeable. And check this. It also has for your hat. So you can clip it onto your hat. So like it shows it in this picture down here on a wrist. Here it is on this guy's hat. And then here it is just freestanding on something under the hood. But check this out. This thing's, you can mount this to your hat. You can mount it to your put it, like I said, headband, wrist, whatever, and swivel this thing around. Now, this one's not charged, so it's not going to turn on, but it has different levels to it. So I don't know if you can, like I said, these were made just for Tractor Supply. So if you're into lights like I am, this is pretty cool. And like I said, it's pivot all over the place. So that'll be getting some use at some point. And the fact that it's rechargeable. Now, you know what? I just noticed as well, it says it has a motion sensor. So maybe it only turns on and shuts off for a certain period of time. So like if you wave your hand in front of it, it'll just turn it on. Anyway, I get excited about stuff like this because when you get older, as we all are, um, it gets hard to see. And I just saw here that BK has said that, well, Paul, I'm going to it's hard to associate. It's taken me a long time to recognize certain catch to YouTube name guys, whatever, with their real name. So forgive me, Paul. You attach a headlamp to the front of your welding helmet. Very helpful. Velcro right to the front. Yeah. I mean, every bit of light is going to help, especially when you're doing this stuff, some dark area on a car or something. But Neil B, 1 thumbs up for doing a video on your neighbor. I love the guy, still working in his 70s. Yeah, he's a really neat guy. He's got a welding shop and does small engine repair, and he's done various repairs for me on lawnmowers. And like, I think if you want him to, he'll sharpen your chainsaws. Which anymore it seems like the bulk of people want to just go buy a whole new chainsaw. It's like they don't realize you can sharpen the chain or buy a new chain. But anyway, let's see. Neil B, my father-in-law is 75 and still working as a mechanic. He says he's part-time now, though, so he only works 5 days a week. You met her briefly at scene when we crashed your. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I do remember that, Neil. I remember talking to you and to him briefly. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So he only works 5 days a week. Yeah, and Neil, you sent me those pictures of that F1, right? With the cool bed in it. I think you sent me those pictures on Facebook. So yeah. Robert Adams, I'm finding more light more important now than it used to be. Yeah. The weird part is, for me, because I've been welding since I was 10 years old. Started off with a big Lincoln 220 stick welder, and I've welded all kinds of stuff together with that. And moved on, of course, over the years to MIG and the automatic welder, automatic helmets and stuff like that. But my eyes are so sensitive to light coming at me that, like at night, many times I'll put my sunglasses on while I'm driving because the light is so offensive to my eyes. But when I'm in a dark space somewhere like this, I've got to have as much light as I can get to light up the area that I'm working on. So, that's where these lights behind me here, as I've learned over the years doing the videos, I've got to light up what I'm working on for the subject matter so that people can see better what I'm trying to relate. And, so I'm always trying to improve various angles, perspectives, and lighting, and trying to make the videos better, and then also, like, again, for me to see. So Heath, the headlamps from Harbor Freight, free gift. Bing, bing, bing. Yeah, that's a good idea. I wonder if I could attach that to my helmet, have a whole array of these things all over my helmet, right? So I just have them all strapped to my chest. Yeah, the more light the better. Yep, F1, cool. Thank you, Neil. Like I said before, if you're, I'm sure there's been people in and out of the chat. If you would, please throw a thumbs up on the video. Every little bit helps. As I mentioned before, whenever I post videos, according to YouTube's algorithms and stuff like that, they want to see thumbs up, they want to see comments, they want to see view duration, all that stuff. And every little bit of that helps the channel and helps it grow. So, and that's again why I'm trying, like I said, I think I pointed out a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to do a repair video every week, the live streams on Mondays. And so far, the viewers projects on Sundays. And I've got another video that I did. I still have to edit it, and because people, I think the bulk of people here want to see the Mustang videos and the old car videos, but I know I have a pretty good following of people who want to see maintenance videos. My brake jobs that I do, or um, tune-ups, or whatever repair videos that I do is along the way, because I'm not just a old car guy. I work on all kinds of stuff. So I did one last week before my wife and I took our road trip. I changed the oil in her Honda Odyssey. So I went ahead and filmed it, and I'll probably edit that video down and get it out as well. Somebody might find that useful and get some information. I don't know, but every little bit that I put out helps the channel and helps the growth. So anyway, Amaranth or Amarante, not sure how you say that. Time for a late dinner and hit hard the bed in here. Thanks for your videos. Thank you for being here. Amarante, Amarante, I don't know how you say it, but I know that I see you on Instagram, and you do some cool stuff. So glad you're here. Hope to see you next time. DP, keep doing what you're doing right, light or dark, it's all good. All right, DP, we'll see you. Glad you were here. Boss Mustang, I'm also curious about how your Mr. Cool is working and square foot of your shop. Yeah, as I said before, the shop footprint, well, the shop is actually 900 square feet. Ceilings are 12 feet. I've got spray foam insulation up there. The Mr. Cool is working, but it pretty much runs constantly to keep a decent temperature in here. Oddly enough, the insulation in the ceiling is a good thing, but it works both ways. So if I don't have the heater running and it gets cold in here, it takes it a while to get it warm back up, because not only does that keep the heat or cool in, it also keeps the heat or cool out. So on the outside, if the sun's baking the roof or coming onto the roof, it doesn't transfer into the garage, which is good. That's what I want. I don't want to have it, especially in the summer. That has done wonders for the summer. But in the wintertime, I lose that radiant heat coming from the sky. So for me to keep the shop comfortable, this thing has to run pretty constant. And like I said earlier, if I had had to do it over, I'd probably put a head unit on either side of the shop so that I had at least some cross flow of heat coming in. And if I had put sheetrock up here, it would make a world of difference too, because I'm also heating the space above. And it may not be much, but heat rises, so that's kind of hurts it a little bit, but it does a good job. I'm happy with it. I don't mind it running. I'd rather be comfortable and pay a little bit of a higher electric bill than to be cold and suffering. Heath, your video on the Aaron's lawnmower, I bought the same one. Yeah, I love that mower. That thing is tough as nails. I'm just gonna, keep on plugging away at that thing, or running it. I just take care of it and keep on mowing with it. I love it. It's a blast to drive one of those compared to the old sit-on tractor type mowers. Brian Larry, where can I find your email? You can find it right here. joedaddysgarage@gmail.com. No apostrophe, just joedaddysgarage@gmail.com. That's my email. Yeah, send some pics, Brian. Happy to see them. Put a couple ceiling fans in to move the air down and around. Yeah, I know. I need to do that. There's plenty of room for improvement in the system. I do other things. I get distracted. Forget about those ideas. Speaking of other things, I've, this past week I stumbled upon what I'll say is I think it's a deal. You know those little dune buggy things you can buy now, made in China. But you know, when I was a kid, we grew up. We had rudimentary go karts. We had three wheelers with no suspension, just balloon tires. You know, later on things improved, and I think Honda. Well, Honda had what the original Odyssey was a dune buggy. You know, Honda had. Well, I ended up finding a deal on Facebook Marketplace, which I'll probably put a video on the other channel, on the workshop channel, just because. But I bought. See if this will come up. I found this on Marketplace. One of those dune buggies. It's a Trailmaster 150 XRX that somebody they had they listed it for like $600 on Marketplace, and those things sell for about $2,600. And they said it was 2018 and has carb problems. So I bought it and brought it home, and I was playing around a little bit today with it, and I think it has a bad relay and had the wrong size fuse in it. So I'm going to play around with it and get it running. It's something that my grandson can play with. He's 6 months old. I'm already trying to buy him toys. But it's big enough that I can ride in it and my wife can ride in it. So we're going to get it running and play with it and have some fun. But those things are pretty cool. Brian, have you ever used a Harbor Freight MIG welder? I have not. I've got the Harbor Freight Vulcan 165. It's over there. That I've experimented with. I have one video on my other channel, and I have another video I need to edit down and get on there as well. That's on Joe Daddy's Workshop. But I have not used their brand. I would have no problem using one of their Vulcan or even the titanium MIG welders. Even the Central or Chicago, whatever it is, Chicago Electric, I would probably use one of those. But I have my Lincoln, so I'll keep using my Lincoln until it dies. And then honestly, if and when my Lincoln dies, I'll probably go buy one from Harbor Freight. It'll probably be one of the Vulcan MIG welders. I know I have my plasma cutter from Harbor Freight. Thing is killer. I've cut up many items with that plasma cutter, and it's nothing wrong with it. It works great. Let's see. Robert Adams, I have the Harbor Freight Titanium 170. It replaced my old Italian-made welder. Works very well. There you go. Robert recommends the titanium. Mark Cooper, that's what grandpas do. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I still have a Honda 70 four-wheeler, one of the old Honda 70s with no suspension under it that I bought used when my kids were young, that they rode around the house and whatnot. I still have that thing sitting out in my little barn, and I commented that my grandson will ride that one day too. So I'll make sure it runs so he can ride it. But yeah, that's what grandpas are supposed to do, right? Buy toys for the grandkids. Okay, Tom Holloway, Barry, what do you think about the HT Black Widow paint gun from Harbor Freight? Okay, so you probably know that I sprayed, that deck lid with that Black Widow, and so far I like it. I have two of them, and the one is like more of a base gun or a primer gun, and the other one is a top coat gun. So from what I've experienced so far, I think they're good guns. That's just my opinion. And I know there'll be other people that'll say, go out and buy a, expensive, whatever. Um, and that may be, there may be some benefit to buying a very expensive spray gun. But as I said before, the guns that I've been using in the shop, that was a cheap kit from paint store where you got 3 guns for $100, and they've done a great job. So I'm these Harbor Freight Black Widows are going to be an upgrade, or they already are an upgrade. So, um, let's see, Heath, how often do you fill your welding tank? Uh, well, it depends. When I was doing heavy welding on Brooklyn Pony and building up the car and all that stuff, I think I filled it up probably every 3 months, maybe. Now I'm at the point where um, I'm doing it like maybe every 6 months, something like that, maybe. It depends on, again, how much welding I'm doing. So I could go as long as a year if I'm not doing a whole bunch of welding, but 6 months is probably the average. Let's see. BK, Harbor Freight is making some good stuff. Grabbed a clip. Not sure what that means, but let's see. Couple new icon ratchets, good stuff. Okay, yeah, that's just basically Snap-on. Honestly, I looked at that stuff and it's pretty much just Snap-on tools that they put the icon name on. At least from what I can see, there's a big argument, and I think Snap-on sued Harbor Freight because of that, and toolboxes and jacks and a bunch of stuff like that. So, that's something else. I'm going to 2 weeks. I'm gonna go to Colorado. A friend of mine invited me out there. He's a Mac Tools sales rep, and he invited me to come out there for their tool show. So I don't know if I might try to film some stuff, leave some feedback, please, on this video. I might try to film some stuff, for the channel, and just show some new tools and stuff that are available from Mac. I've got Mac tools that I've used for years in the shop, and have no issue with them. So anyway, we talk about tools, various brands and various products, but anyway, I'm gonna go out to look at Mac tools out in Colorado in a couple weeks. So that'll be pretty cool. Be nice to see maybe some innovative stuff. I don't know. All right, let's see. Currently, yeah, Robert, Snap-on went after Harbor Freight over their floor jacks. Then when Harbor Freight showed that their jacks were made by the same factory in China, the case fell apart, and Snap-on ended up losing a judgment to Harbor Freight. Yep. Walt King, I'm curious about which is better, weld, MIG, welder, or gas weld? Gas weld. If you're not using gas, you got to use flux core. Flux core leaves contaminants. Not the best for sheet metal. I mean, if you're welding together some heavy pipe, flux core is fine. If you're welding together a frame, but not for sheet metal. Get the gas welder. Get smaller diameter wire for sheet metal, 023 to 025, and get your argon CO2 mix bottle. You won't regret it. So, sorry. Maybe I'm curious which is better. Okay. Well, in that case, I'd probably still go with the MIG if you're talking about the oxyacetylene welding. I mean, that has its place, but MIG welding is easier, especially doing sheet metal. Just saying, my opinion. So, Yeah, gas is better and easy to weld. You're right. You know, it's funny that you bring that up. That reminds me, I'm gonna relate a story. Um, Years ago, when I was going to A&P school up in Pittsburgh, and we had to take it was 21 months of training, and part of that was learning how to gas weld. You know, um, and I already knew how to weld, but a lot of people didn't. But I was going through the course; it was part of the course. Good night, Mark. Glad you were here. But anyway, it, when you think about a small aircraft, they're a steel frame. You know, the little Cessnas or whatever. You know, stuff that was built in the 70s and 80s and whatever. They're a steel frame. Uh, Thanks, Neil. I may have to check that out. Um, but anyway, at the school we would work on live aircraft, and one of these aircraft was, I don't know what the plane, what it was, Piper, I don't know, Beach maybe, but it had flipped over in a windstorm, and the tail section was crushed. Well, the manufacturer sells a replacement tail section, prefabbed, built to the exact specs of the original frame or airframe. So one of the instructors saw me welding, and he's like, "You don't need to be playing with this stuff. I have a project for you." He took me out to a real aircraft. It was not it was not like something you just practice on. Took me to a real aircraft, and he said, "Okay, I want you to section together the back half of this plane, which was the tail section, up to about probably 4 feet, 3 4 feet from the very rear of the plane into the main frame of the aircraft." And he said, "The way you're going to do this, and this is just some random knowledge for you. I didn't use a MIG welder. I used oxyacetylene, um, and the the tubing is all about ½ inch, somewhere in that range. They make inserts, so you would take the two tubes that were to vent together, and you would cross drill a hole, you know, through those tubes of the airframe, and then you would insert the replacement tube that was going to hold everything together and realign it, and you would plug weld those two holes together, and then piece together all, you know, both the back half and the front half, so that basically you had four main tube frames, and the section would come together, and you would slip that over that joint, and then you'd re-weld the plug weld on the backside, and then you would weld the diameter, you know, the exterior part of that joint. And so that's what I was doing for my testing and my schoolwork. They had me reassemble the back half of this airplane, and it turned out fantastic. And I was pretty pleased with myself, because I mean, it's a live aircraft. You know, this isn't something that was just, if you messed up, it was scrap. You know, didn't matter. This was a pretty cool deal. So I pieced together that aircraft, and of course I passed a welding course, but that was great. Um, let's see, Neil. Wait, let me back up a second. BK. Okay, I got calls. I don't know what what you're trying to type. Clive Cussler has a museum in Arvada that has some one-of-a-kind cars. I think Wayne Carini type cars. That would be interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much time I'm going to have there. Well, I mean, we're only going to be there 2 3 days. You know, mainly for the tool show. And again, I may film some stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll keep that in mind. Um, that would be cool. Arvada. I think we're going to be in Aurora. Aurora is where the tool show is going to be. So, okay, what time is it? It's 9:24. I've been at this almost 2.5 hours, and this has been great. So I think I'm going to have to call it a night. I don't have the best padded stool, so this is getting a little hard on the backside. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, Heath. I load planes for FedEx DC-10s. We have had the tether stretch a couple of times. Time for you to fire up the popcorn machine for the game, nerd. Oh, yeah. All right. Uh, get yourself one at the Mac show. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to call tonight. This has been great. I appreciate everybody being here. I'm currently showing 45 viewers, and that's fantastic. I can't ask for more than all the support that you give me in this process. Again, I'll highlight this. Throw a thumbs up, leave a comment. Same way with the other videos. Thumbs up, comment. YouTube likes that. It helps the channel grow. It helps, everything, all those cool stuff, whatever that goes on with the whole process. Yeah, Jack, we'll see you next week. Um, Walt, appreciate your help and all your insight and help. I'm going to send you some pictures from my coupe. Yep, coupe's convertible top because I was able to do this. Thanks. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, send some pictures. Love it. All right, guys. Good night to everyone. Appreciate y'all. And there'll be another video coming out in just a couple of days. Again, it'll be the hinges for the Brooklyn Pony, and then the next Brooklyn Pony video should be the fitment of the I Did It steering column. So that'll be the next one, and I may throw in the oil change video that I did on my wife's Honda Odyssey just as a filler, just kind of a informational type thing. So, all right, that's going to be it. Have a good night, and